Hey, Toronto. Welcome to How's the Market podcast. I'm Dave, and we're
I'm
joined by Kate.
I'm Kate.
Keith.joel.
Dave Thompson.
Thanks, guys, for joining us. Both from RBC, together making the best mortgage duo in we decide the universe.
We did decide the universe was formerly Galaxy, but
Okay.
yeah, we'll
All
go
right.
with that.
You're trying to niche down there a little bit, right?
Yeah, exactly. Really focus on a specific market, I guess you could say.
Nice. And I guess so. Tell me what areas do you focus on? Is it all of Canada? Is it Ontario, Toronto, Etobicoke?
You know what? In a past life pre-COVID, we would have said maybe West Toronto or West GTA, but COVID had a way of making it so that we weren't necessarily sitting in front of our clients every day. So we'd meet a lot more people, and with the advent of Zoom and WebEx and those sort of things, we can kind of we're reaching a larger client base than maybe before.
And I imagine clients. I get the similar calls. They're like, "Hey, I want to buy a cottage, but we're looking on the East Coast. Can you connect us with somebody, or can you help us with that?" So I think people, their vision for where they want to live or invest totally changed during COVID.
Yeah, for sure. For sure it did. And it hasn't been a bad thing for us at all in that sense. There's a lot of things that COVID taught us, right? And it's been good for the business.
For sure. So how long have you been in business? How did you get into doing mortgages with RBC?
Take that, Dave.
Yeah, so 15 years at the bank, so bleed blue through and through, and it's been quite a ride on that. So
Nice.
we did a couple things in the branch outside of the mortgage business and transitioned to this 8 years ago. I think Keith's been 10 plus here as well, and it's been a great time. A lot of adventure, a lot of learning, and a lot of great relationships built up on that, and kind of seen some of the ups and downs of the market. We're obviously in a tricky time right now, but we had this in 2010 in the U.S. and it did filter into Canada for a little bit, and kind of think we're kind of working our way through it again this year here.
Nice. I've been doing it for about 10 years, and now I'm starting to sort of see the cycles and be able to identify a bit more, because now it's kind of into your second go round of it.
You see the bell curve.
Yeah, you see the thing, you see them change in the curve, and then you say, okay, all right, it's gonna come back, and start trying to watch for maybe what the catalyst of change would be. And lots of talk lately about the Bank of Canada and the Fed raising interest rates, and what the impact has been. And I know we've talked about it. To me, to simplify it, I look at it as, okay, rates had to go up because they were too low. Inflation, and to counter that, so we're going to raise rates. And I don't know if it was the mindset of the Bank of Canada and the Fed, but it was almost like, let's raise it until something breaks. In the States, we've seen something broke. The Bank of Canada almost had a little bit more foresight, because I think they raised before the Fed, and they said, okay, we're going to pause, because I think they maybe had their finger on the pulse a little bit more. We're dealing with a smaller scale. So they're like, okay, I think we need to pause before something starts to break here. Um, they're the experts, and they don't necessarily have a full playbook on how to do it. And they're looking at the same economic cycles, and trying to figure out, because I don't think we've ever been in this type of scenario before.
Yeah, COVID was so strange. Like, COVID hits, everyone freaks out, we get locked up, and interest rates actually spike out of the gates, right? And that's because cost of money just goes through the roof because everyone holds their money close. So all
Everyone's
the organizations
pulling out and being very secure and cautious.
Yeah, like, so big corporations are what kind of fund the market, and they all suddenly keep their money, close to their chest. They don't know what's going to happen. And what happens is an emergency interest rate drops in March, rates basically spike and then fall off a cliff. And that just starts this whole cycle of affordability increases. People suddenly are trapped in their homes. I want to move to Collingwood. I want to, get out of the city and buy that, $2 million place in Huntsville. And everyone just kind of ventures out, and it just becomes this nasty spiral that just takes off and becomes an animal on its own.
And people have a new motivation to sell, right?
Yeah, totally.
Prices going up, you're throwing something else into the mix. Like, people who never thought about selling before now have pretty big motivation to, like, hey, maybe it's time to get out of the
Sure.
city.
Totally. And so that happens. And then on top of that, we have our government who is trying to make sure everyone is, stable and taken care of. We've got restaurants that are closed and all these small businesses, and they start pumping money in the system. And that's where things kind of got out of hand, as we had crazy low interest rates, which were, encouraging people to borrow, and home prices are going up. And then we've got all this money being injected in the system. And, an economist and the Fed and the Bank of Canada, like, they're meteorologists. They're right half the time. And in Canada, we were wrong. Like they said last, in summer of 2021, they said inflation is only because of all the ships that are stuck out in the port of LA, and they're sitting there for 90 days. And, this is all going to go away. And then kind of that warning sign came in September of 2021, when I think inflation hit like 5% or just below. And that was kind of the start of the end, where bond market took off, fixed rates started rising, and it took 6 to 7 months for Bank of Canada to do their thing. And there's just so much money in circulation. That's what's crazy, is that we've seen these rates go up, and we got this really good report at RBC last month for credit card spending. And it said in February 2023 versus February 2022, spending was identical amongst the Canadian consumer. And so that's shocking that February 2023, our discretionary spending was the exact same as it was before rates started going up. And so that just shows how much money is still in circulation that needs to be taken out of the system. And that's what interest rates do. It takes a lot longer for it to happen. And maybe it's some money supply, maybe it's other factors, but that's kind of what we're seeing right now, is that tug of war between there's certain consumers out there that are struggling, certain brackets of the economy, and there's others that are just booming, doing really well. And
did you see the numbers do they have the numbers for this year, or is it just the past 2 years?
So that was February of this,
February,
last month.
February of the last month.
Yeah. It said there was no change in discretionary spending. So
really?
Travel, clothing, everything was identical year over year. There was no slowdown in that. And you should see like less restaurant spending. You should see less travel. We're not seeing that.
Well, and I think also a lot of people saved a ton of money. I know, at least me personally, staying inside,
Right.
not doing much for 2 years. A lot of people got cooped up and they're over it, and they don't care if prices are a little bit higher for Shania Twain concert, a trip to Mexico, new clothing. Like people, I think they're kind of going a little overboard right now.
Yeah, and that's got to work its way through the system, right?
So interesting to hear kind of what's actually happening than what we see and hear in the media. That sort of the doom and gloom. It's not always as bad. For some people, it's catastrophic. But when you look at the bigger picture, credit card spending, that's a pretty interesting point to look at.
Yeah, I mean, the media gets clicks, right? Like that's their objective, and I'm not here to judge the media. We all have opinions and stuff, but
you're here to get views and clicks for us.
Yeah, exactly, right? But stats are just that. They're just stats. Stats can be manipulated to prove the point that you want to, right?
Just tell the story you want.
On that. So, like the headlines of number of unit sales being down, 60, 70% year over year. And like, that's taking into account that last year was the biggest year in like Canadian sales history. So of course we're down from that. But
and Dave, what was the kind of highest point of last year in 2022? Would we guess it around February?
Yeah,
February. It's kind of like the peak of the market. So
February,
year over year, February's not going to look too good when you're coming off the peak of the market. So next month will be this month will be interesting to see if we have growth.
I felt the copywriters, anytime they see the peak of a market or the bottom of the market, they're like excited for a year to write those headlines that they know are coming up with the big shocking number to grab the attention of big shocking number to grab the attention of everybody.
Yeah.
So Kate and I have been working together for just over 2 years now.
Yep.
And Kate, how long were you in real estate before?
I was in real estate for about 3 years prior, so I guess 5 years now almost. Yeah. So I worked at a deals department at a couple other brokerages. Got my license on the side while I was doing that, and then ended up leaving to join Dubbin Associates. I'm a sales rep, and I'm also the operations manager. So kind of like juggling 2 jobs at the same time.
It's hard as a salesperson. I feel like we're out there doing deals, but internally you make a bit of a mess. As much as we're proficient at what we do, but there's always loose ends to tie up, right? And so,
sure.
Kate, on the operations side, make sure that everything runs smoothly and does so.
I'm the team nag.
You kept us on the straight and narrow. Let me tell you. Thank you for
You
your
made sure we got
emails.
here today, and
Oh,
you
yeah.
followed up with us, so appreciate it
Yeah.
for that.
She's good at what she does.
Thank you.
One of the reasons why we want Kate to join us too is considering starting the process of research at looking to be a first-time home buyer. So any advice that you guys have for first-time home buyers?
Yeah, we're probably next week is going to be the first-time home buyers are going to be able to get a first-time home buyer's savings account. So that's something that should be on everybody's radar.
And what is the first-time home buyer's saving account?
Right. So it is basically, for those of you who are familiar with using an RRSP for your first-time home buyer purchase, that's where you can put money into an RRSP. You get the benefit of a tax rebate when you put money into an RRSP, and you can put up to $35,000 into an RRSP. Then when you withdraw it, when you buy your first home, you don't have to pay taxes on withdrawing it. So there's always been that level, or there's been that RSP, first time home buyer benefit, for a while, and that's up to $35,000 that you can use. Now they're coming out to complement that with the FHSA, and that basically brings into the toolbox another tool that first time home buyers have that almost acts like a TFSA and an RRSP. Okay. And this tool starts the beginning of April. And first time home buyers will be allowed to put in up to $8,000 per year, up to $40,000. If you're buying with another first time home buyer, partners buying, they each can have up to $40,000 in there.
Okay.
Maximum you can put in is $8,000 per year. Okay. So it can take you up to 5 years to fully max that out. When you put that money in, you also get a refund or a tax rebate, just like you would in RRSP.
Are those equal? Like the amount of tax savings that you get?
Yeah, it would be the same. It reduces your taxable income. Okay. Also, the money that goes into it acts like a TFSA in the sense that it will grow there tax-free. Okay. While you have it in there. And you have, I believe, 15 years that you have to utilize that money in there?
A long time.
A long time, yeah.
So the idea of creating sort of the separate account to just solely focus on first-time home buyers, is that going to remove using the RRSP as a vehicle of it, or do you still have that option?
It's not going to remove it. It's complementary to it.
Okay.
I would suggest for people who haven't begun saving for their first home, and let's say they do have $8,000 they want to put into their bank account and highlight it as, this is for my home, to first put it into the first-time home buyer savings account.
Okay.
Then if they have money over and above $8,000, then start putting it into your RRSP.
Okay.
That would be the order of operations.
Okay,
Yeah,
perfect.
and I'm super curious about the differences between the two in terms of repayment, in terms of, in 5 years or however long you can hold it in there for. What happens if you actually don't end up buying a house, or, you decide to move out of the country and you're not going to buy a property? Kind of, what's the repercussions? What's the differences? Yeah.
Do you want to tackle that? I know a couple of the answers there.
Yeah, we'll tag team that one. So on the RSP, when you take money out of the RSP, if you have, it's $35,000 each that can come out. So in that couple scenario, so if you take, let's make numbers easy and take $30,000 out of your RSP. Okay, you sign a form. This is the property I bought. This is my closing date. You trigger withdrawal. When you do withdraw, the person at the branch or wherever your money would be, they code it as a first-time home buyer withdrawal. So you get a tax slip that says this one to buy a house. Okay, the first year after you buy your house. So if we were to buy it this year, next year there's no repayment that's required on it. And then moving on beyond that, it's $115 per year that has to get repaid. So on $30,000, it'd be $2,000 a year that has to go in. If for whatever reason you don't put that $2,000 back in the RSP, it gets added to your income for that year. So if you made $100,000 and you didn't put it back, you now have to pay tax on 102.
Okay.
But you can always front load it and pay more. So you can put 2,000 in, or you can put 10,000 in. You can do whatever you'd like, as long as you allocate a portion of it to that $2,000 repayment in that example. On the first home savers account, there's no repayment required on it.
Okay.
So that's, you take it out. It's just meant to kind of stimulate an extra little bit of a tax return for you. So if you put in 8,000 and you are at a 30% tax bracket, then you get $2,400 back the next year when you file your taxes. So it's just helping boost that savings amount for you, that little bit more, but no contingency on repayment.
And I think that repayment is really interesting because that is, people have to add that onto their budget, and that is going to help some people who, may not be able to make that extra $2,000 payment per year when they've purchased a new property and they've got a new mortgage payment. If you've bought a condo, you've got your condo fees. So that's really interesting. I didn't know that.
Yeah. And Kate, you mentioned what happens if you don't buy a home, right? You have intentions to buy a home. So not exactly sure, but I think it's 15 years. Okay. And if you don't buy a home within 15 years, you can roll that money into an RRSP.
Okay.
Okay. So that's the amount of time that you have to use that money in the first time home buyer savings account. And if you don't, it can roll into an RSP.
Okay. Interesting. So you don't lose it, which is nice.
Yeah.
But it's an account made for a very long runway.
Yeah.
Okay. Like if someone's buying a house this November, you can put $8,000 in for sure. It's got to be there, I believe, for 90 days, just like the RSP does. But you're going to get that $8,000 extra tax return next year, and then off you go on it. Where like the RSP is definitely more flexible. It's all based on income that you've earned, and there's 18% of total income or capped at a certain amount every year. I think it's like 29,000 this year. So on the RSP, like we do things like RSP loans for people that maybe they've got like really good savings in an online savings account and a tax-free, and they've got $5,000 in the RSP. So we do a lot of RSP loans where we'll give someone $30,000 to put in their RSP. That has to be there for 90 days, and then they can take it out to buy their first house. And that loan can be paid over 10 years. And so that's triggering a higher down payment. Maybe that takes them from 17% down to 20%, and we're now eliminating the insurance company from the deal. And so the RSP still gives the bang for buck on the bigger ticket stuff. This is just a nice complementary piece there for those with a long runway. Maybe your 20-year-old daughter or whatnot, you want to help them, you can throw money in that because they're obviously not going to buy for that 3, 4, 5 years kind of thing.
So important to start to have the conversation early, so you can plan out these things and look at the different scenarios. It's not just, hey, I walked into an open house, I want to go buy this tomorrow. If you have some foresight and say, hey, like my 5-year plan, or I want to buy in the next year, let's start that conversation now so we can make sure that we can do it properly and all the options that you have to best navigate your scenario.
Yeah. And all those people out there, that are fresh out of university and, might be thinking that the housing market's getting away from them, those people should be the ones that going in, setting up these automatic contributions that total $8,000 per year, put your hard-earned money into these, so in, 5, 10 years, it's there for you when you want, and it started to grow and compound.
Compounding interest is an amazing thing.
Yeah. If we want to get a little opinionated, do you guys, for first-time home buyers in Toronto especially, obviously our market is very different from anywhere else in the country or Ontario, do you think it's enough? Do you think the government should be doing more for first-time home buyers? What would you guys like to see out there, maybe on top of this, or is this a really good first step from the government?
I think it is enough. I think, or that's a loaded question. It's tough to say is enough.
We gotta
you
get
have
those
to
likes.
be careful.
I need a soundbite.
We need the hot take.
You have to be careful, in my opinion, with if we agree that there's a housing issue and a cost of housing issue, you have to be careful with the solution being give people more money, right? So there should be, I think we'd all agree it's a supply issue.
Yep.
And if the solution to a supply issue is give people more money, or not give people, but allow people more vehicles to use money to buy, you run the risk of adding fuel to a fire, in my opinion. And I think the issue, at least in the Greater Toronto region, Golden Horseshoe region, most people would agree there's a housing supply issue.
Yeah.
So I think that is paramount. And although this is a great product, and yes, it's geared at first-time home buyers, which is great. It's not geared at investors. It's not geared at second-time home buyers. I think that's great. But we don't want it to be an issue that actually causes housing prices to increase further because people now have more access to money.
Yep.
I think one of the things that happens, because we get so focused on the GTA and Toronto, when these decisions are made, it's based on nationwide, right? So
Yeah.
you're looking at the small town in Saskatchewan and taking that into consideration just as much as the first-time condo buyer in Toronto. And it's how can we help the most people and make it beneficial to everybody? And Toronto is certainly an outlier. It's a very different market. So you can't just focus on what's going on in Toronto.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Totally.
Absolutely.
And those small cities need those high income earners or that boost to, their economy with someone that's maybe is priced out of Toronto and they decide I'm going to move to London, right? And so they move to London, they buy that $600,000 home. That first home savers account plus CRSP is a lot more beneficial than trying to squeeze into that, 1-bedroom condo at, Bloor Islington or whatnot. And so that person moves to London, suddenly they're eating out, they're doing all those things. And, that's a boost to the economy. And so that's what we need in Canada. We're so centralized in these couple hubs, where the US is obviously there's just tons of cities everywhere. I went to school in the States, and one thing that's so funny is like all my friends moved, we were in Boston, and people went to Washington, San Francisco, Seattle. They went everywhere.
Yeah.
And like in Toronto, it's like, okay, if I have a job in Toronto and I'm looking for a job somewhere else, other than Toronto, where else am I really looking?
You're going to Vancouver,
Am I going to
Ottawa, maybe
right?
Calgary.
Right? Like there's like 3 spots.
Yep.
Montreal. If I want to stay close, I'm looking at Montreal or Quebec or Ottawa.
I'm
right?
looking at Mississauga going, okay, how long of a drive is that?
Yeah.
And so that's what Canada needs is a little bit more, support in some of like the Londons.
Yep.
Even
Kitchener, Waterloo,
Windsor,
Barrie.
even Windsor is like kind of taken off a bit home price wise, and people are moving there for, standard of living and stuff. And so that's going to have a big impact. These things are going to help that, those areas a lot more than the GTA.
I think Barrie's really interesting to look at. The amount of new condos and construction going up around Innisfil along the water. Barrie, I think in the next 10 years is going to explode with everybody who's priced out of Toronto and
Next to a good highway,
in between
next to
cottage
nature.
country.
With the GO station that's going
Yep.
in Innisfil, and the accessibility to the city.
Casino-rama.
Okay, let's really get to the motivation.
The key to Bala.
A little further north, but yeah, I think it was Tux 2 in my day in Aurelia. So
How old are you?
Oh, you never asked that question.
you know what? I'm very excited to for my birthday coming up. It's I'll be turning 42.
Woo!
Big Douglas Adams fan, so 42 is the answer to life, the universe, and everything. So forecasting an amazing year.
So the real question is, are we invited?
I thought you were planning a surprise party for me, Kate.
I'll invite all my friends.
Perfect.
All my 25, 30-year-old friends.
Going in Innisfil.
Oh, yeah. We're going to tear it up in Innisfil.
I look forward to it.
Yeah.
Party bus up. Let's do it.
Maybe we'll do a revisit to Nashville.
I'm going to Nashville in May, so looking forward to that.
That's Dave's favorite spot.
Oh, it's just a low-key Vegas.
My favorite
I
spot.
liked
or
it
your
more
favorite
than
spot?
Vegas.
Are all Dave's favorite
I
spots.
think so,
all
yeah.
Daves, all
Yeah.
Daves love Nashville. It's a
All
proven
Daves love
fact. Look it
Nashville.
up. Yeah.
T-shirt and jeans, off you go. That's all you need. No, don't impress
Yeah.
people. Just go have fun.
Unpopular
Bingo.
opinion, Vegas is way overrated.
Yeah. I say Nashville's come as you are.
Yeah,
it's just
exactly.
walk in, make sure you got sandals on and t-shirt, and you're good, right?
Just don't go too far off the strip.
Yeah.
Unless you're on a scooter,
Yes.
in which case just rip.
Or the drunk bike.
Well,
I did that.
Have you seen this thing? It's like a group bike where you all sit on it.
It's a
Yeah.
bar on a bike.
Yeah. Have I seen that?
I'm not sure how they're legal, if I'm being completely honest. I almost fell off like 4 times.
I'm sure there's a pretty wordy waiver you sign
Oh,
before you
yes.
get on that thing.
It's genius though. Okay, let's combine some exercise, tourism, and beer. Okay.
Can I let you know something though? The pedaling doesn't do anything, and we didn't find out till after.
Breaking
So,
news. You heard
I'd
it here
gotten
first.
a full spin class, and we get off, and then he pulls away with nobody on the cart, and I was like, oh,
And the pedals are still going. They're
yeah,
just still
pedals are
spinning.
going, and he just drives away, empty cart. I'm like, oh.
You're slamming your watch, being like, "How many steps was that?"
We're yelling at everyone to like pick up the pace. We're stuck in traffic. We're going up hills, and Anyway, a little off tangent.
The things we discover. It's amazing.
I'll have to go to check out this
Oh,
stuff.
you have to.
Oh.
I would highly recommend it. It's so fun. Just do it. It's so fun. You get a good group of people, and
Yeah, Martin's Barbecue. I left my heart there with the rack of ribs.
Nice. I'm sure there's some great golf courses around Nashville.
there's a Topgolf.
Oh, can imagine.
Have you been to a Top Golf?
I've been to Vegas Top Golf.
Okay.
That's the only Top Golf I've been to.
I think the Nashville one's pretty similar.
We're going to it. I'm looking forward to it.
It's great.
It's like an in-person video game type thing.
The balls are all like monitored. It shows you how far you went, racks up the points automatically, gives you a replay of your shot, like serving you drinks on the second floor.
You're gonna have to put some of that on social media. We want to see that.
I have a patented swing. I can't
Right. Right. Yes.
rip it, right?
Yeah. I know. It is.
Well, there's a net to the right, so you're safe. Okay, there's a big net, like 70 yards high,
Yeah.
40 yards
I
right.
don't know, Dave's going on a
Dave,
bachelor party and he's gonna fall forward.
I need a 360 net.
Yeah.
Maybe a bubble suit,
Yeah. Bubble balls.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There you go.
Affordability.
Yeah.
Do we
Just-
kind of want to get into that?
Watch the stuff.
Okay.
I know you're like, I was doing that.
I was. Huh?
We all do it.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No worries. Cool.
Yeah. One of you wanted to talk a little bit about affordability in the city. I don't know if there's something you want to expand on that or switch it up a little bit. Maybe I'll take a drink of water.
Brought to you by High Quality H2O.
Brita. Yeah, no, I forget why we wrote affordability, to be completely honest, but someone mentioned it.
There's been a lot of talk about affordability in Toronto, the GTA lately, and when someone looking to buy their first home or buy a home, they'll look at, hey, and create the budget. What can I afford? And one of the biggest factors on that is, what's the current rate? What can we get? What's going to be the best fit? So, what's the best rate you guys have for us and the listeners?
0%.
You got to give us a call to figure that out.
Oh,
Rates are funny. Rates are kind of always changing. It's a competitive market.
Yeah.
Okay.
it's very tied to the bond market. It's amazing. In the last 2 years, I've learned so much more about rates and bond yields. In the first 8 years, I won't say I was totally ignorant to it, but it's sort of, you hear the announcement, you go, okay, yeah, I understand the principle of what's going on. Now it seems like everybody's got a podcast and everybody's talking about it.
Yeah. Is this the most interested your clients have ever been in interest rates in the last 5-10 years?
I not necessarily say that.
Okay.
I'd say it's the same when people are looking for homes and in the market, they naturally start to think about home prices and interest rates. When interest rates, like on fixed rates, were sub 2%, people were just as interested in talking about that as when they are now. People were just as conscious about how a slightly higher interest rate or this sort of thing may or may not affect their monthly budget. People are talking about interest rates now because they're oftentimes higher than what they've seen in the last 10 years. But I think that's kind of what we were talking about earlier, David, how you mentioned that you've been in the market for 10 years, and it's kind of funny is we're able to be a little bit more educated as professionals because we've seen other parts of the market other than just interest rates getting lower or housing prices getting higher. We're able to now say, no, we remember that time when it was this, right? And you can't always be that way if you've only been in the market for
Absolutely. Well,
5 years, right? Or
we
10
had,
years.
Brian Barnes on the podcast, and he was talking about double digit
interest rates.
interest rates. Yeah.
He's been doing it for almost
Rate
50
Mageddon.
years.
Yeah.
So it's
He's like, I've seen rates, 18, 20%. He's like, this is nothing.
so when we're looking at the affordability, the current interest rate is just one factor in it. The other factor is what price you're buying the asset at, the home. Also, how much you're making, what your wages are, what your income are. So you lower or raise any one of those, it's going to have a factor and sort of change the playing field on it and how everything operates.
Yeah, like consumer mindset has really shifted in the last 2 years, I'd say. Like COVID, we would get phone calls and people would be like, "Oh my gosh, I just saw a place," and we wouldn't know this person. We'd be like, "Just saw this place. Can you help me? It's $2.2 million. I need 1.6. Can you get a pre-approval tonight?" And like, get the pre-approval, and never did the payment come up. It would be like, "Oh, for 1.6 million, your payment's going to be $6,100. Oh, that's great. $6,100, no problem." And today, when we talk to people, one of the first things we talk about is simply like, what do you think you can afford? And that now drives what their borrowing amount would be. 'Cause it's so vastly different. Like in COVID and the glory days when money was just kind of free and flying everywhere, like $1 million was $3,700 a month, we'll say, and so that's $37 a month that's a lot of money, but for $1 million in credit, that's not bad. But today that same amount it's $5,500 today. And so suddenly the consumer's got to come up with $1,800 more a month. And that's top of mind. And whether it's media or what they've read or just, affordability and everything, like food and everything going up, like that is now a main driver in our conversations, where before we just spit out the number of whatever it was on 600 grand or $1 million and no problem. Yeah. No one was phased by it. And today we're scaling back now. It's hey, it's 5,500 and whoa, okay. Well, what's, $1 million bucks? Well, what's $800,000? And we'll say, oh, it's $4,400. And that's okay. That's more my price point. And so that's what we've seen, over the last 6 to 12 months. And
the focus shifts from the purchase price to what the monthly operating cost is.
Yeah,
correct. And hey, can I factor this with the cost of everything else going up? And I still want to be able to go on that vacation, and I have a plan to buy, go golfing, buy a boat, whatever the extra thing is that I want to do, the lifestyle I want to live. I want to make sure that I can operate within that.
Yeah, and so that's when people's purchasing power falls. That's what we kind of saw, and that's what was always out there. Like home prices are falling, and they fell more outside of the city than they did inside. But they seem to have stabilized because rates have kind of stabilized. We haven't seen that affordability metrics get stretched any farther, and that's hopefully a good thing. And maybe they fall, but maybe you can talk about like the condo market. Like, has that been as impacted as your single family dwelling in GTA? I don't think it has, but
it has for sure. It's weird, the freehold market versus the condo market. We've seen, during the initial parts of the pandemic, we saw people wanting to actually leave the core because they spend a couple months in a condo and not leaving, and they're like, okay, I don't like this. How far outside the city, or can I go to the suburbs, and what can I get? And so we saw an exodus, and we actually saw the condo market soften a lot.
You also had a lot of investors. Their tenants were leaving the city. They couldn't find tenants anymore, so they were having to sell off their condos.
And rent rates went down too. Because people were like, if they're renting, they're like, hey, you know what? I'm going to go live at mom and dad's, or go try and live at the cottage, or
I'm going to work from home from the cottage.
Or abroad, right?
Yeah.
So
I had some friends who worked from home from Mexico for 8 months. Yeah, because you could go down and you could get a place on the water, a nice little condo with a pool you could work in for about $800 Canadian a month.
Yeah.
And they lived there for 8-9 months, and what a life.
Totally.
So, I moved up to, say someone moved up to Innisfil, and now doing that commute isn't practical anymore, and there's more and more pressure to be back in the office. So we're seeing the return to the core. And it really depends on what sort of segment of the condo market you're looking at. There's the luxury market. There's the sub-million, because the million is a big factor when it comes to how much you have to put down on your mortgage.
Sure.
So it really depends on kind of what you're looking at. But overall, I think we're seeing more of a return to the core. People's preference is always going to be generally to have freehold.
If they can.
If they can.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So the only time we really see it kind of go the other way is with the downsizer or smart sizer, right? Mm-hmm. It's where, hey, I'm, a bit of an empty nester. Do I really need 3,000-4,000 square feet? This big home? Let me downsize to something that's a little bit more practical. Maybe I can just lock the door and walk away. I don't have to worry about maintenance. If I'm going to be abroad for half the year, or or just want the easy use.
Yeah. No gardening, no snow removal, no window cleaning, less empty rooms. There's a lot of
Oh, yeah.
positives for people who are looking to downsize and decide to go into a condo instead.
You guys ever lived in a condo?
As a renter, yes. Yeah, it's great.
I'm in a condo right now, going back to freehold. But my favorite thing is it's the garbage room. I'm just like, okay, put it there. It's gone. Doesn't matter. My Amazon boxes, I don't have to worry about breaking them down. It's just
It's magic.
Yeah.
It is.
And underground parking in the winter.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
It's
that's
always
so
nice.
nice.
Heated underground parking.
The gym that I don't go to.
The
You-
It's nice to know that
the
it's
gym
there.
that
That you
watches
contribute
me.
to. You contribute
Yeah.
to it, right? It's clean every.
I'm a part owner of a gym. Oh, yeah. The amenities is great. It's great. So,
Stop bragging about your condo.
yeah, if you're looking to buy a condo, 5 Hannah,
18-foot ceilings?
it's actually 17. But,
17.
I thought I saw that listed.
Oh
yeah.
I was wondering if that was yours.
It's looking forward to moving back to the West End.
Are you moving back into your triplex?
Yeah, I'm going to be back there for a little bit, and then look to get something freehold, maybe south of Etobicoke.
Finally get a dog.
Oh, boy.
I don't know. Well, maybe.
You still
Max
living
needs
by
a
yourself?
friend.
Am I still living by myself? Yeah, it's a 1-bedroom.
Okay.
Or Keith, sorry.
Just making sure.
Yeah. Are we ready to start the cross-examination?
Yeah. Are we breaking any secrets? Why is Dave really selling his condo?
I don't know if my editor is going to leave this part in.
It's getting a dog. The writing's on the wall.
Oh yeah, I bet I'll make a prediction. This time next year, Dave has a
French
dog
bulldog, eh?
or a wiener dog. Love wiener dogs.
There's
I would pay
Max
to
is
see
the only
Bucky
wiener
in
dog in my
real
life. Max is the only wiener dog in my life.
Good. I'm glad.
They say dogs normally look like their owners, so I'm trying to figure out what type of breed this would be.
There might be a dog Dave out
A
there.
mastiff.
A mastiff, yes.
Bulldog. A
Yeah.
little bit of a mix.
I'll show you a picture afterwards.
A pit bull.
Yeah. Anything you guys want to cover?
I mean, I would just say that we don't really feel a shift in the market right now versus a year ago. Like there's a lot of buyers out there. There's a lot of people that are pre-approved that, the consumer's funny. They feel if there's a falling knife, they don't want to catch it. It's kind of like a stock. Like stocks go down in value and they really believe in Apple, but they won't buy it until Apple pops like 6%. And then everyone jumps in and it just like encourages it. So we were looking at some of our numbers just because, it was quieter on the buy side in January, February at the beginning. And it was kind of like refreshing to see that, on the pre-approval numbers, like there was no difference really year over year. And so that kind of gave us a little extra bounce in our step that, sunnier days are ahead. We don't know when they're coming, but, demand can only build for so long. And eventually, people will move. Life goes on. Father Time is undefeated. And so we all get older. We have life events and, we'll get back on track, whether it's in a month or 6 or in a year, So that was encouraging for us on our end.
Yeah, I would say pre-approvals for homeowners are definitely kind of where we like to see them. One thing that hasn't come back yet, which is probably, the next thing might take a little bit while, is the investor client.
Right.
That is still, we're not hearing from them like we were. And probably we were maybe hearing from them too much before.
Yeah.
And I know RBC has probably one of the most attractive solutions or products for the multi-family investor up to, is it 6 doors?
Yeah, 6 units. If it's a residential home,
That's
call
difficult.
us. We're one of the few lenders that'll do it.
Yeah, that gets me excited. It's amazing these days, but does that. But you deal mainly with new business. Do you guys see those people that, hey, maybe they bought early in the pandemic at the lower rate and now they're looking to renew, and they've got to factor that in? Do you see that, or is it primarily new business that you guys have?
We talk about like our past clients. It's a very common thing. That email coming in, I'm up for renewal. Like last night, September, I got someone who emailed me. And so, we're jumping on a call, we're going to chat. Obviously there's payment shock there, but depending on some products. So like they're coming out of a fixed mortgage, we do have the option, if they're in something called our home line product, which has got that secured line of credit, we can stretch their amortization out to a 30-year if we needed to for affordability. So, we are engaged on those calls. They're not always easy, but you got to tackle it head on, and then it's so much easier versus, let's just talk about the elephant in the room. And it's out there. We can't control where rates will be in 2 years. And, we can't control your decision today isn't going to impact what happens in the market in a few years' time. So it is what it is. Let's address it. Let's find the solution for you and move on from there. So it's a very common conversation.
Do we want to do any kind of like predictions before we wrap up?
Absolutely. You guys ready for the hot seat questions?
Bring it on.
Will Dave break 90?
On the front or back?
Of course. Putts.
Of course.
You're a mini golfing?
We want Dave. I know Dave can break 90. I want to see him break 80 more than once this year.
I haven't broken 80. So
have you not?
No.
This is the year.
The disappointment.
This year's your year.
You just got to get a fitting.
Okay. Just get a fitting.
That's it.
I thought I had to like breathe through my eyelids or something.
You got a new shoulder. That's got to do something.
I get a new shoulder.
I wonder if I can hit it farther into the woods.
If you got to hit it in the woods, you hit it in with authority.
Yeah,
that's what I always say.
Make sure it's a good walk in so you can get a good walk in.
But predictions. What do you guys think the Bank of Canada is going to do? Where do you see rates going in a year?
Or I guess
vague predictions.
Let's say for the rest of the year, do you think we're going to see another increase, stay flat, or decrease, or a combination thereof?
Based on what we're seeing today, I would say the consensus is the Bank of Canada is done for the year.
Okay.
And likely to come down maybe as a nice Christmas present.
Oh.
Yeah.
Right? And if not Christmas, then maybe in the new year. But I think one of the things that makes this interesting is like you go back and you look at forecasts from 18 months ago and you see where we are today, and they're laughable, right?
When I first started this, my prediction for the year was we would see a rate increase and a rate decrease. Sort of thinking about that is that inflation was going to fall faster than was expected. Doesn't look like that's the case, but with sticky inflation might actually be a catalyst for rates to actually come down, just to try to manage what's going on. So my predictions is out there, and it may come true for not the reasons I expected, but you never know.
Sure.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't want to piggyback on his comment, but I have to say I agree with it. Fixed rates are going to come down.
You guys you're obligated to agree as a team, right?
Yes.
We choose each other
legally
for
obligated. Yes. Yes.
Who's the good cop, bad cop? I'm
Yeah,
curious.
Yeah. Who do we leverage the first rate you give us off to the next one?
Yeah. Him. So I don't think anything really happens, whether they go up or down a little bit. I think it's got to stay like this to take all that excess money out. I don't know if we get a Christmas present. Maybe we do on that. I think the fear is if you've gone this far and you're starting to see, the fruits of your labor, for lack of better words, the last thing you want to do is take your foot off the gas too early.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden it's kind of all for naught. Right? And so my belief is you got to work it all the way through. And so I don't think anything happens on that front, but fixed rates rise way before Bank of Canada raises rates, and fixed rates fall way before Bank of Canada lowers rates. And so that's the bond market acting. Yeah. And so I do think that and we're starting to see it a little bit, that by the end of the year, fixed rates, I think will be, lower for sure. How much is anyone's guess on that front. And that will spur, affordability and stuff like that.
So make sure you stay in contact with your realtor and your mortgage agent.
Yeah.
Make sure you stay up to date on that information, because Bank of Canada isn't always the first one to the table.
Yeah, that's what catches the media. But
yeah,
rates change all the time.
All the time.
Yeah. So it's best to, you guys do a lock-in or pre-approval, or what's the correct term?
Rate holds.
Rate holds.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Hold rates for 120 days, and That's the ceiling that we're holding, right?
Mhm.
So we're never
Right
holding
now-
the floor. We're
Yeah.
holding the ceiling.
Right now, for a 5-year fixed, are you looking below 5, over 5%?
Yes.
Kind of hovers in and around
Oh,
there.
right around there. I know it depends on what the bond yield's doing, but it seems to be like, okay,
Yeah, we're in that range.
Yeah.
Yeah. Whether it's below 5 or above 5, it's in that range, and
if you don't like the
the
answer,
market
ask me
is
tomorrow.
yeah. If you don't like the answer, ask me tomorrow. That's right, and the market is encouraging. The competitive landscape is trying to make mortgages start with a 4 instead of a 5 these days, I would say.
How much difference do you see between like a 3-year fixed and a 5-year fixed?
Very similar in pricing. Very similar in pricing. Consumer sentiment, I would say, on a whole, is gravitating more towards a 3-year than it is a 5-year. Rightfully or wrongly, as we said, forecasts are, inherently flawed, but a lot of people feel like 5 years might be too long right now, and maybe 3 years will get us out of this stormy weather and into nicer skies.
Yeah.
So let's not lock in too long. But no one would be laughing harder at that individual than the person who took a 5-year today if that didn't turn out to be the case.
Right.
So
2020 hindsight,
we'll see.
right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Where can everyone reach you?
You can reach us by email or by phone, but our emails are simple. They're our first and our last name at rbc.com. So keith.joel at rbc.com.
Yeah, and David.Thompson at RBC.com. So if you can go online and
We'll
Google.
post it in the
Yeah, and
comments
if you
for
go
everyone.
online and Google our name with RBC, it'll pull up our actual. We have like little pages that you can go on and click, and all of our details are there.
And for
as
somebody
well.
reaching out, what makes your guys' life easier? What information should they include in an email, or is it set up and have the conversation on the phone? What's the best way to do it?
A phone call is the best way to start an initial relationship. They can start that phone call by email, but I always want to get on the phone with my clients, get an understanding of things. There's so much you learn from a phone call. So often you get an email saying, hey, I want to get a pre-approval. What do you need from me? Let's have a phone call first.
Yeah.
Let's
Yeah.
figure out your situation.
Tell me what your plan is, and let me help you find the best solution for it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I totally agree. We're the same way. It would, I need to have a conversation to really understand what you're looking to do, and my job is to give you advice and to help you navigate and make sure you're doing it correctly, right? Sometimes saying, hey, I want to buy a property and put it in a corporation might not be the best solution for it. So let's go through all the factors, because there's other things that come up, and like this, I'll never be able to remember the name of this new savings account.
FHSA.
FHSA.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, and their contact information will be linked down below if you want to reach out, if you have any questions, if you want to set up an appointment. We'll make sure to put that in the details section.
Okay, perfect. And
Wonderful.
All right.
Yeah.
Thanks so
Cool.
much for coming on, guys. We really appreciate it. It was wonderful talking with you.
And if you could do us a favor and share, like, and subscribe, leave a comment, really helps us broaden the range of the podcast. So
Leave a like for rates to go down.
absolutely, yeah. Leave a
There you go.
Amen.
based on the number of likes we can.
And listings to increase.
Yes.
That's what we need,
Yeah, really.
right?
That would be perfect. So, but not too much.
Not too much.
I really long for a balanced market. I feel like we got there a little bit, but it's because there's so little inventory and there's so little number of transactions that, any little change would push it out of it, right?
Yeah.
And to further divide it, you have the two markets, the one market that's, homes are kind of sitting there, it's not moving, and then there's the more competition on the other side. So it's, I don't think I've ever really seen a fully balanced market.
Nor will you ever.
Yeah, maybe it doesn't exist.
Yeah. Maybe it's a little bit of a mirage, but I think we're in maybe a balanced market, but it's a low volume balanced market where there's very limited sales, and it's not what people feel like maybe a traditional balanced market would be, where things are actually happening and moving and working both ways. It's a weird.
It is very weird. I feel like we're just one catalyst, one change of something away from the floodgates opening again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a really built up consumer demand to, whether it's to move, to buy, first time home buyers. And I think the investors are also, they're watching. A lot of them are trying to watch the assignment sale market because that's where they think the real sort of blood in the street is. But it's, you know, in my experience, those deals don't really, they get, you know, the amazing deals don't make it to market.
Yeah.
They get bought up by usually the real estate lawyers. The agents get on in it, mortgage professionals too, and then there's sort of the companies that send out, you know, those postcard that looks like they're handwritten in the mail saying, "Hey, I'll buy your home cash."
Yeah.
You know, just they're trying to go direct to it. So it's the fact that to have those come through to like an investor who's not already tapped in, it's very very rare.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know. It's do the math, have a long term outlook when you're looking at it as for an investment.
Yeah. And I mean, in terms of a balanced market, you know, we were going 200 kilometers an hour and then we hit the brakes. It takes time to get back up to speed, right? You don't just balance and go back to normal. Like things take time. It was a little bit of a shock for everybody, I think. An expected shock, but we knew it would happen. We just didn't know when.
It's the period of adjustment, right?
Yeah.
So, and 200 miles an hour on the pub bike.
Kilometers.
Oh,